Yeah.
Signing and intent to lien.
Yeah. Look at the agenda. Steve sent it out.
I have a hard copy here for you too.
Do you have everything?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Really? I could put away my computer. You mean? Really? Okay, good. 'Cause I forgot my cord. It's very possible that it won't last.
You'll die.
That's right. Actually, it's pretty good. It's okay. The brightness down on my reading, but yeah. Hello, Steve. I hear there's lots. Is there anything I need to check though?
For new emails?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
The last email. I mean, maybe somebody. Right.
But that playground's not on.
Got it.
Everything else is on there to do.
But why do we even lock it?
And I'm not going to.
Right. It's a slowly. We're going to start with the owner's comment period. We'll 2 minutes to talk about anything you'd like. It'd be great if it was pertaining to what's on the agenda, but we will hold you to it if there is any other than that. We do have a meeting next week that hasn't been posted yet. Have we posted that agenda? Okay. So, and some of it will pertain, and possibly depend on what's going to come out of this meeting too. So, does everyone have a copy of the agenda? Do you have a copy of the agenda? Do you need a copy of the agenda? You have one?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, can everybody look over the agenda, please? On the board? I know we're all sitting together, but and we originally did it so we can have talk a little bit about ARC. So, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay. The covenants, yeah, sometimes I get them mixed up. Hi. See?
Who's that?
We have to say hello because we're not going to see you forever here, right? By the way, what's your last day? Is it really? Okay, all right. Awesome.
Call us single digit.
Yeah, okay. Okay, the first thing we want to discuss, what we're going to do is owner's comment, which I skipped a minute. I was going to want to wait for at least a minute now that we're started. So let's do owner's comment now. Any owners like to make any comment? You could make some room over there. Now this is being recorded? Awesome.
And it's live.
It's live. Oh, it is? Well, that's good. Okay. We should send that out kind of beforehand, too.
We have it on the Friday Flash.
Okay. Okay. All right, so I know we have a couple owners here, and you see the agenda, and what we'll do before we kind of go on each one, because this is a workshop and we'll be a little bit more liberal, kind of how we do things, we'll allow you to kind of have a comment before we start talking on each item, just to make it easier. But is there anything that you guys want to talk about beforehand? No?
We have to learn from you regarding that legislation.
Good luck. Okay. All right. All right. We have hopefully people that know a lot more than me here. Okay. All right. So we're the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about discuss fines, S9 conversion salt. Steve, I'll hand this over to you to kind of go through that for us, please.
I will jump right into that, but I want to make sure everybody, I know Susan's walked around and shook everyone's hand and said hi, but I want to make sure everybody meets Susan Kern. She's our new community manager. As you guys probably already know, Lori Rockwell's last day is this Friday, so it's sad that Lori's leaving, but we're really excited to have Susan.
Look how Lori is really frowning. She looks really
You notice she tried to sit out there in the crowd.
That's right.
That's her last time to sit at the table with you guys, so we have her here for our last workshop.
So whenever we type in Suzanne's name and try to email, it's S-U-Z-A-N. We have Susanna spelled strange. Also, it's all these typing in. So at least it won't be this. We can't mess up, right?
Susanna's a double Z. So
Right.
that's the difference.
Yeah.
No, it's a single.
It's single.
Double N.
Double N. It's a double N, right.
Know your employees.
No, my face is probably all red.
It's okay, you can't tell if it's from the heat or just.
So when did you start?
I started on Monday
Oh, so when I said that's funny, you already started already.
of last week. That's right.
Oh, really?
Monday.
Okay. You see how slow I am?
This is
in my
1 week.
I sent you an email thinking I missed it. Okay, great. Well, good. And you came from where? You can give us a quick.
I was the president of a local management company here in town for about 8 years.
Orlando?
Orlando,
Yeah.
yes. And I left them and I just hung around for a bit trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up. And this opportunity came. And I am very, very excited to take on the challenge.
Awesome.
It is a challenge.
I'm sure it is.
That's one challenge right there.
Jack's a challenge.
You'll hear, especially this is a workshop designed for his challenges, right? So yeah. All right. Steve.
So we'll start with S9s. I wanted to bring you up to date. The conversions to S9s now, which is S9 is our code internally for a specific assessment. Anything under $1,000 as far as fines cannot be converted to a specific assessment. So we can only convert $1,000 or up in fines for specific assessments. And the importance of that is that if you were to waive a fine or to reduce a fine, if the board was to fine under $1,000, And then at the appeal, the last appeal, 'cause we're going to talk all about the appeal and how that's changed around. But if you were to take it, and I think at one point we had a discussion of saying $500 is where we would go. If you do that, it really can't follow along with the account. So what you would still be able to do is suspension of amenities if not paid within 90 days, suspension of voting rights after 90 days, and the fine goes to the estoppel. But the conversion to the specific assessment allows it to be, to carry on with that fine. So is there anything I'm missing with that with the S9s?
Can I just clarify with that? Specific assessment, that's lien. Okay.
It gets to a
It is
lienable.
lienable, yes.
Now, there are different opinions on how lienable it is, but we've been working with it is a lienable offense. So that's important to know as we talk about this conversation. Then the other thing then for the first agenda item is just the overall fines. And I wanted to point out that when payments are made, the following order for overall accounts. It goes to interest first, then late fees, then attorney's fees and cost, and then assessments. So fines aren't on that list at all. So it's important for us to understand. So it's,
Do that one more time.
yep, it goes to interest first, then it goes to late fees, then it's applied to attorney's fees, and then assessments. So that's why it's important to have it to be able to be a specific assessment so it can fall underneath that assessment. Finding procedures are what we're really here to talk about, though. That's the meat of this conversation tonight. And state statute changed July 1st to clearly define how finding procedures work, and more importantly, clearly define the role of a finding committee, or in our case, the covenants committee. So what we're looking at now is the initial fine has to come from the board of directors. So the way we would like to set it up is to have the fines in almost a consent agenda item for the regular board meetings. Susanna would go about her regular process of doing the letters, and she's going to talk a little bit more about that process later on in the agenda. But she would continue doing the letters, and then it would get to a point where we would send a 14-day notice to notify the homeowner that the fine will be discussed at the board meeting. So it could be an agenda item where, like we do now with different payment plans, things like that, where you guys can pull specific ones if you have questions about them, or you can just say, we want to make a motion to just approve all of these fines as set, and then the fines would go into play, and they would have the ability to then appear in front of the covenants committee. So now the covenants committee's role at that point, they won't be allowed to do any type of recommendations anymore. They can't reduce the fine. They can't add more fine. Their role has been identified as specific to yes, confirm, or no, deny the fine.
Is that with statute or?
That's my statute.
So is it that some locations don't have a covenants committee? It's just the board doing it, so it puts more weight on the board, or I mean, I'm trying to.
You're asking why?
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to get in the head of the legislature.
This is legislation.
There was this one politician whose
Yeah.
history said that it's not fair. But in any case,
Yeah.
I was talking with Susanna earlier, and I don't want to belabor the finding process and have it stretch out where, for example, we send a 30-day letter out and there's nothing done, and then we follow it up with a 14-day letter that says, hey, you're going to go to the board for fining. And what I would like at the same time is that 2 days later, the covenants committee meets on a Thursday, so we'll move your meeting up a week. And then also in that same letter state that you're going to go to fining, and if the board approves fining, the covenants committee will review the board's approval to determine if it's a valid or non-valid situation. Fining would be incurred on the day of the meeting or the day after our meeting, and then if they say sustain the motion, fine keeps going. If they remove it, if they uphold it, then it's gone off altogether. But I don't want to see us having to send a letter that goes to us for 14 days and then another one notifying them of 14 days prior to a hearing with them. just have one letter and have us both meet within a couple days of each
I
other.
think that makes sense. The letter then that is sent as, I think right now it's technically the third letter, right? After we did the initial letter and then the second letter.
Well, this year we did the map, so yeah, you have a map in the first letter and the second letter, notifying you of the meeting,
So that's probably.
Is that
the-
reflected in this?
Yes, and we're going to talk about that. So it may be better for us to talk about how we're doing it now, to finish up green up cleanup versus what we're going to propose for 2016 inspection.
When does this take in effect
It's
exactly?
immediately, July 1st. is
July
when
1st.
it
It's
starts.
already taken
Okay,
effect.
so let's go back. What numbers how much are we talking about in terms of numbers? So you said, the board would do X, Y, Z. We'd have a list of things. How many things would we have on a basis? So I'm just trying to figure out the
Right.
numbers.
You might have
Average
40
properties.
properties, we'll
Huh?
have 5 to 7 items in each property.
So it
What do you
could,
say, Jack?
Probably 40 properties, about 5 to 7 items in each property.
Up to 40, yeah.
Okay.
The next two will be pretty heavy because, July fines were not enforceable. We didn't have a covenants meeting in August. And then the first time the board will vote on these items will be September. So then, if you take out the holidays, you've got 2 meetings that we can kind of wrap up the green up cleanup. So they're going to be pretty heavy. If you take that out of it, I think your average would be somewhere, 20s.
so when we talk about, when we do our approvals, it's more than we've seen in the past, right? It's going to add some work. You just take a seat. The process now, of course, there is an appeal. We see it when there's an appeal. So is there an appeals process?
Yes, so the initial fine now will come to you. So we see it really as if there's 20 of them on the agenda,
Sure.
it'll be one agenda item that you'll have before the meeting. You'll have you'll have access to all the information that you can look at.
Right.
You'll vote at that meeting then to approve them all, wholesome,
Yeah.
ask for more information, however that works out.
Yep.
Then it'll go to the fining committee or the covenants committee at the regular scheduled meeting.
Mhm.
At that point, the homeowner will have the opportunity to come and present their case, just like they do now. They'll be able to come and Susanna will she'll put everything up on the screen, she'll show all the information.
Is this how it works now?
This is how it works now, but
Right.
it just can't go first anymore, because it was going first, and then they would appeal back to the board. So we have to add another step here, where it has to come to the board first.
So they're appealing the board's decision and then their decision too, right? So
That's after they decide. So if they decide that they're going to confirm the fine and uphold it,
Uh-huh.
then they have the option to come back to you again
Okay.
for the
All right.
final appeal.
Okay, so
I don't know that the covenants committee is actually an appeal per se, but they can come like they would usually, which was to say, this is my property, this is what's going on. That's never been like that, or at that point the items were completed by the covenants.
so they'd send back a recommendation saying take it off. The board has to do this now.
No, they can
They
reject the
can
fine.
stop it.
They can say, we
Okay.
will not be fining at
Okay.
this point in time.
Got it.
And then the fine dies.
Okay.
Instead of that.
What the covenants committee wouldn't do would be like what's been done in the past, where we'll give you 30 days to do this, or, we're gonna grant 90 days, or however that. It
So
can
we're
be a
taking the
straight
compassion out of it.
shot of yes or
Taking the
no.
compassion, I don't object to that.
Well, and
But the board could do
you
that
can
though,
when it gets to
right?
that final
They can.
appeal.
I mean, the board could do that. Your recommendation to
Covenants
us.
committee can't do it, but the board
Correct.
appeal can.
So when it comes to us from the very beginning, you could give a recommendation, and we could just say, at the very beginning when we do it, we could just go with staff's recommendation based on some things, right?
And what we're saying.
So we could do that.
Right, what we're saying on the agenda is we found these to be in violation, these 20 or 30 properties.
You have to start the
whatever those
process.
are. And then you guys can just say, okay, we will go ahead and fine all of those because those are based on what you've said here. Then they have the opportunity to go in front of this committee.
It sounds like we're relieving a lot more fines than we were before. That sounds like our process has to be finding people from the beginning
Right,
to get it
unless,
started,
And
unfortunately,
then we
right?
come along and say, yeah, that was a good fine, or go, well, based on the actual data.
So your guys, you have to be the nicer guys as opposed to, yeah.
It's like we have to come over with it. You're just basically doing semantics, right?
But the thing is that, we might get something that somebody didn't have a whole lot of time to fix, and they're fixed it by the time they get to you, and you're gonna say, okay, or, you know, you did it in the right time, or it's a day to get me finished.
Or they'll come to the meeting and say, it didn't get fixed because my father passed away on Thursday.
Which is what we usually do. Okay, I get it.
Homeowner
You got
has
3
the
o'clock,
ability
this is-
to
look at
speak
paragraph
at
B,
any one of
where it says
the
it
CROA
calls
meetings. So
members to
if
the
they
board.
come to the original, or to the monthly meeting,
Right.
and they want to speak during homeowner comment session, they can speak about whatever that hardship is, and if you decide that that's enough to pull that fine and to give it another month, or whatever direction you guys want to do at that meeting, then we can come back and bring it to the next meeting. But if you just fine them all, then they'll have a chance, and the fines will start at that point in time. So they will be on their account until they get here, and then they can be rejected.
Okay.
Can just one second, quick clarification. At the board meeting though, the only time that the resident or the owner will be able to speak is at owner's comments. We will not have a section before the fining commences, is that correct?
Well, and you guys have done this before where you have said, if you're here to talk about such and such items, so in this case, if you're here to talk about fines, we will allow, instead of doing your homeowner comment period at the beginning, we'll allow you to have 2 or 3 minutes or a reasonable amount of time.
Right. It's an action item, so we could as a board.
I guess my concern with that is we just extended our board meeting
You did.
sizably.
Right.
Oh, no,
No.
we'll have it.
Sizably. If you have 20 residents that we are putting up there, you're talking about 3 minutes per resident, if we're going to allow that.
Right. So you figure most of, go ahead, Jack.
First off, you're not going to see it happen because we rarely ever have any residents come before the committee. But the other issue is, rather than the entire detailed thing that you give the covenants committee, I would just like to see the address and the enumeration of what items are wrong, like landscape, painting, whatever it is. I don't want to see, you know, on the front porch or anything like that. Yeah, we're just going to say, okay, 5 items on whatever the house is. Okay, prove it.
But let me ask you this, you guys have seen it more than I have. I mean, I see when they come to us later, but if I see the fine, I would show up to the meeting. That's probably my indication of showing up. We see that and the residents tend to, that's the trigger, they see a fine. So I think that they'll probably show up more, they see a fine. You're gonna be fined if you don't come to this meeting, because this is the board that's gonna do that.
Would that be their prerogative to just say, there will be no discussion about fines at the board meeting, that's taken up at the covenants committee?
I think you have to allow homeowners.
Isn't that what the intent was for the state of Florida, right? Isn't that a board do it?
I've got a question about fines before we go to the topic. You know, in the past, we assessed the fine, that fine grows on a per-day basis by a number of items up to a set amount.
Correct.
But what's going to happen now? Is it just a set amount?
No, it's still
The policy is still the same.
Per file?
But we'll start the fining as of the date of the meeting, the board meeting.
So,
So when you guys have your hearing, will be the determination whether we're going to continue the fines or suspend it.
and the concerns were, obviously, is we wanted to be a little bit softer, not softer on the green up cleanup. Here's a nice thing, we think you should look at this. And it didn't start the process legally, right? Until you really say, we're gonna fine you, or you get your, you know.
Until the covenants.
Until, right, so.
Most fines
Okay.
the night it began.
So you have an outline here, new filing process for noncompliance. Is there any reason not to start talking about your recommended
We'll just
process?
Switch the agenda around. if you
Okay.
want. That's fine.
No, I think that's kind of what we're interested in, kind of what you're recommending the process, right?
So,
Here, this is.
knowing that this new fining has to take place, it's gonna happen whether we do green up cleanup. And the green up cleanup is coming to an end right now, where we're at the last little bit here. And the green up cleanup was an intense inspection of all the properties in celebration. So it was looking at roofs and painting and some of these items that typically have a little bit of a lifespan, 5, 10, maybe 15 years if it's a brand new roof. So what we're looking at is how do we kind of refine that process so that we can get out on a regular basis through all the villages throughout celebration and do more of a consistent inspection. And that's what Susanna's going to talk to you a little bit about.
Okay, so the first papers in the packet was basically going back and looking at 2014 and the carryover to this year, the green up cleanup.
Which paper, so we can see what we're
We'll
looking at?
pass the letters.
Which one?
Yeah.
Oh, on the agenda, that's not what we have here, the agenda. The
No,
agenda.
the packet.
It's the same thing that we got in the email.
Yeah, it looks like that.
Got it. It's the same thing we got in
got it, okay.
Got it.
Spreadsheet looking.
Is that the process?
It's this, we're looking at this document, it looks like this. Right now.
We don't have.
You know, in here, I mean, I've got it on, it's the same one that you gave us. The same, I'll just scroll down and somebody have the hard copies, it's fine, I've got all this stuff. Whoever wants it, I've got.
That's, I did not read that, if I remember correctly, I did not read that statute. Is that something we're adding as just on our own rules? Because I read in the statute that the covenants was the end. Now, it sounds to me like we're adding another appeal.
I don't know.
We're back from the covenant.
In the charter, it allows an appeal of any fine.
But you're making the fine.
Right, but
The
they haven't
board
had an
is actually your
opportunity.
fines.
But they don't get a chance to appeal it, I guess, until we actually fine. So the fine starts by us. So if we allow an appeal, no,
You're the hearing.
no, I
You're the
think
yes or no.
the appeal we have in our docs that we do the appeal. You could appeal to the board.
So it's.
Unless we change the docs that said we could appeal to covenants, but the docs now say you appeal to the
The
board.
state statute trumps the docs in this situation where
You hear it.
Well, it doesn't.
they have to have,
We
they,
find
as the
you
finding
hear
committee
it.
now,
They
they have
appeal.
the opportunity to go in front of them, but only for a yes or no.
Right.
And then documents come back into play.
Exactly.
Which puts you guys back.
Right, and if we wanted to change our documents to say that you guys are the final arbiter, we could do that by getting rid of that, but we're not suggesting that right now.
Our decision or your decision?
Well, it's a good question. They're probably appealing both. They're appealing first, they're appealing us giving the fine, and you're saying yes or no. So obviously, if you say yes, they're appealing your upholding of our fine, and they're appealing back to us, right?
A question.
I see your,
Right? I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense. They're appealing,
Why didn't you just come in the first meeting?
they're appealing back to us.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously.
Well, and I think that definitely does what you just talked about, Vanessa. Your meetings now are probably gonna go till about 11 or 12 o'clock at night. Up to probably.
The difference, though,
Correct.
I
We have
think
to do
is,
some
priorities.
I think the difference, though, is before it was the covenants committee, and I think people knew that the covenants committee was not the final word. I think when you see something, the board has assigned this fine, or we'll be assigning this fine to you on this meeting. I think that will be more, it sounds more permanent.
Has more levity, yeah.
Well, her letter's gonna say you have the ability to appear in front of the finding committee, and you'll have the scheduled date of the finding committee.
Are we the final committee?
Yeah.
They're the finding
Okay,
committee.
got it, okay. So, go ahead, do you have a question?
I have a little difficulty that we are a committee established by you,
Correct.
and yet we have the authority to change some decision you make. How
You
could
say
that
yes or
be?
no.
All,
You say-
all we're doing is rubber stamping management's recommendation, basically. They said, we found you guilty, and we agree. Now you're going to do the hearing. Are they truly guilty?
Right. I mean, we created a covenants committee, so we entrust you to make some decisions. We don't have to, as a Florida rule, we don't have to have a covenants committee. Not everybody does. But our documents say there's two committees, there's ARC and covenants. Those are the only two that are in our documents.
That's right.
So we're entrusting for you guys to make a decision. So it's up or down.
Yeah.
And if it's, then it's fine.
And
you
we're
know.
looking at the internal
Actually-
information of the house. They're not, unless they want to, they're just giving it a.
Because the board is,
So we're saying you can.
and other locations don't have such committees. So it could be just the board is the same
We make
thing.
that decision
No,
based on the
the
facts.
statutes require that.
The facts can be individual.
Statute.
What statutes? The new ones?
I don't buy
No,
that.
because
I
the
think,
board
I think part of it too, though, is,
You
but
can't say
I think the other,
Every case is different.
the other part, though, that was mentioned earlier is once, just a second,
It is.
once the fine, but I think the point, though, is once the fine is established before the committee, if, let's say, the owners remedy the situation before they go before the covenants committee, they can come to you and say, I completed it, here's the proof, and you then have the opportunity to say, oh, there's no reason to fine it. So that's the circumstance where that would be important.
Which happens quite a bit because we've done it the other way.
Exactly.
Could end
Right.
here.
Yes.
or
We're happy for you to end it there,
Correct.
right? I mean, the only problem is if it doesn't end, that means they didn't do it, and they're being fined, they don't have it, or they did do it, but they're just, you guys, for some reason, feel like they should be fined even though they completed it. For some reason, maybe it went on too long, or it's habitual, you know what I mean? And they have an opportunity to appeal back to us. They're gonna do that. But I think, though, we probably shouldn't get caught up on how our meetings go, because it doesn't mean we have to actually do it in our regular meetings. We could do it maybe we could do it online, maybe we could do it just how the ARC does stuff. We could, as a group, there's other ways that we can do stuff. I haven't mentioned this, but I think that we might want to take a different tack of how we do it, how the ARC approves things right now. Maybe we do it electronically or different things. Maybe there's some ways. I don't know the statute, but we don't might not have to do it this way.
We've done the one electronic vote where we get the stuff for the dog park.
Sure.
So we would have to, if we were going to go that route, everyone would have to be like that. It would have to be a vote, it would have to be a unanimous decision, and then you'd all have to sign that form.
Right.
Well, would there be another way, though? I think, because the voting can still happen during our meeting.
Well, we could vote
If we
electronically.
already know everything ahead of time.
Right.
Yeah.
We've already, we can go through ahead of time, look through the agenda, and either say, yeah, I'm in agreement with this, pull out the ones that we have concerns about,
Right.
discuss it via email by the board, and then at the meeting, we can actually vote on it. I mean, it's going to be more laborious, but at least it won't extend our.
Yeah, and a lot of municipalities have a consent agenda, right? And if anybody objects to the consent agenda, it gets taken off the consent agenda, and then you start discussing that one item.
Right.
Well,
So-
you could say, so I want to pull number 4,
Exactly.
7, and 8.
Right.
And then someone else can say, I want to pull 2.
Right.
And then you say, okay, so we want to vote to approve all the other
Right.
items except for these. And then
Right.
you pull those out and talk about those. And then
Right.
you can vote on them separately. You could say, we need more information on this one, bring it back next month.
Right.
You can do a lot of different things with that.
And I guess we could work on the process of the board, how it works. That's probably less important than this. Get it right for the residents, how the letters go, how the process goes, and then we can work on that. So, okay, so let's go through this then.
Before we get there.
Okay?
I'm sorry.
Yep,
Just want to be clear.
yep.
So when it goes to the board, you guys are not reviewing each property on a screen. Could.
No.
We are not going to go through each picture.
Well,
That's why I'm
I mean,
Unless we pull it.
let's put it this way. Legally, I mean, that's not our intent probably. We're going to go with a recommendation probably from staff to be able to get through the process, and we don't have time to go through each one on the screen. But we're going to go through each one because we have to go through it.
We can put them all in a Dropbox for you.
Correct.
There they are, but not do them all at the meeting.
Yes.
That's
Just
right.
Prior to the meeting, you could look at them prior to that. And
Much
then,
like
like
we
Jack
do
said,
our
just
other
have a
stuff.
summary there.
Do you have a bigger question, like a reason why?
Well, the
Maybe
reason
kind
why
of,
it's written
yeah.
down, so
Okay.
recommendation for staff will look different than what it looks like today then maybe. So for today, the recommendation is we really just go through every single picture and we formulate a recommendation, where this one will be more of a black and white recommendation.
Yes, we have a resolution in your packets also.
Okay.
It's a very simple resolution that just says the fines are $100 per fine per day, up to $5,000. It's a fining schedule. So what we're saying then is that these are the ones that are in violation, these are the fines. You're just approving, you're just saying, yeah, we'll push them as approval for these
Push them
fines.
through the cover.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
I
use
mean,
the example though as like the red flag on the mailbox just pink. We want to get it done, but we really don't want to fine them. But we would normally say, let's give them one more time, give them 30 more days.
Mhm.
What does that look like?
Well, I think
And
that's
this-
part of Susanna's new compliance process that she wants to talk a little bit about.
Okay.
Because we have some things in there where we'll send them an email. We'll do some things to kind of work to help them get it where it needs to be. And if it gets to a point where they come to you guys, it's already been fine, they come to you guys, you can approve it and say, we really think that, you need to still change it to red, and, you can appeal at the next level, so you can tell them, and then they can come back to you guys, they get it changed to red, but at the end of the day, if it's not the right color, it's gonna be fine eventually, right? So if it's
Yeah.
30 days later, you guys can still deny it, or just cancel the fine and go back to having no fine on it.
If it's been done.
It just sounds like there'd be more appeals then.
I think
Right.
this on that same note of what
Because there's more
you're
finding.
talking about.
Right, there's more finding, so there's gonna be more appeals. This is gonna be,
Uh-huh.
going from, it's gonna be a change, because we're gonna have to fine to get the process started.
Well, you hope you don't find more. The system shouldn't make more people not get their stuff done. That's a matter of who you're out there inspecting, who's doing what they should be doing, what's going on in the economy, what's going on with people. It shouldn't create more just because I'm thinking with Vanessa in my mind that, again, like you heard, people didn't usually come to the covenants hearing much, you know what I mean, until I started encouraging them to show up. And I think that now when they see board of directors at the bottom of those first letters, it's gonna have a little more levity, and it's gonna make them go, you know, oh boy, I better get going on that, you know, and that's the goal. We want people to complete the items. I think, Robert, part of what you're saying though, is I think there's some value to creating a list that says, item, you know, mulch, we can decide is that one item. The flag, maybe that's included in with the mailbox and post, so we're not finding someone just for a flag, then finding them just to paint the post, you know what I mean? We come up with a schedule so that when the board has it, they're saying, okay, this is this list, it's mulch, it's painting, it's roof, it's whatever, it's $100 a day per item, per day, and this is what we're approving, these things weren't complete, so that you already have the idea of what the fine schedule is.
So let's go through this, but let me ask one more, sorry. This is statewide, so there's other CCMC communities, they're going through the same thing. Is this something that we're...
I think a lot of the other communities were already doing board fine.
They were.
Yes, and I think because of our documents with that extra, that appeal back to the board, that's why this community was doing that.
Okay, and so maybe later on we talk about maybe do we need to change our docs to make it work better, but let's get through this. Okay.
Yeah, well, and part of the process that we talked about finding, because that's the black and white, the nitty gritty here, but Suzanne has plans, and we've talked a lot about how do we educate the residents, how do we work with people to make sure we're here to listen and help, and it's not just that we want to find the big result is to have the covenants and the house resale value where they need to be, so that's what we're ultimately trying to do.
It sounds like the new process too. Part of our challenge and why we had so many issues is because a lot of people did not understand the map, which was part of what you had evaluated. So hopefully once we're done with that whole thing and your new process, we'll
There was a
minimize
lot of
that.
challenges.
So you could have, if 5 items come to covenants, one residence, 5 items come, we could do a thumbs down on 2 and approve 3. Can we split them? Because what if we say,
No,
well, the
it's
house is
all
okay,
all or
but
nothing.
It has to come from us that way.
Yeah.
Right?
It's all or nothing.
I think that's $100 fine per item.
But if we're reviewing,
They can go per
if
per item.
we're reviewing the items to see whether that fine is just, we feel it's justified.
Right.
And we'd like to be able to split that.
Right, if I put a $100 fine on this side, and I put a $100 fine on this side, right, both 2 items for you to say yes or no.
Right. So
If we did all of
we
them
can
into
split
one
the
item,
decision.
Yes.
They can do it by item.
All right, I don't think that's what the attorney said. I thought the attorney said it had to be an all or a nothing from the covenants. Do you remember that, Lori?
How can we say yes to everything?
But the way you-
Is that what it was, Lori? Do you remember?
It's a plus or no on the recommendation, which is, or the over levy, which is, they're gonna be fined on 5 items per day, per dollars per day, right? That it continues. So obviously those things were done, you look at it, you know, you say, I agree, these things are outstanding, we need to prove it. I know you're trying to say, I don't think it would
If
come
4
up
out of
if they were
5,
done.
if 4 out of 5 to us are justified fines and 1 isn't, then do we just say no to everything and send the whole thing back?
No, and I think what Vanessa's
Maybe say
talking
yes
about
to
is
everything
if
and send
you
it
give
back,
them-
'cause we
if
can
you
change
find,
it.
because they're,
That's why in my head, when
Right.
you make the recommendation.
Right.
Right. They got to $5,000. They can't then go on that one fine and say, well, I'm gonna reduce that fine to half. And I'm gonna accept this one, and they have to all or nothing on that one fine.
On just that fine, okay,
Yes.
then I misunderstood.
Right.
My
So-
understanding was the entire recommendation from
Right.
the board was an upgrade.
Yes, and we have a lot of intelligence at this end of the table, so correct me if I'm misstating that.
No, I think you're exactly right. Typically, it's a roof, it's a driveway, it's a paint issue, and each one of those is a separate fine. But as you spoke, somebody here spoke about the mailbox. If it's the flag and the post, that's one thing that's out of compliance, not all of the
Yeah, but if
things on the
there's
list.
5 fines on that house, and 3 of them are legit, and 2 they fixed between the time that it came from you to us,
You then
we
have
can thumb
overtime.
down the.
It should be in group, right?
Okay, so it's not, okay, got it.
So I don't even mean to derail, because you obviously have a plan to present.
I disagree.
But
Sometimes.
in my head, I keep thinking, how come the covenants committee or planning committee, whatever we're gonna call it, meets first, formulates the recommendation. We go through the nitty gritty, the same kind of thing that we do today. We look at every single photo, we talk, has there been communication, the same process. That recommendation goes to the board, the board does rubber stamp approval, and then we unfortunately maybe meet twice, comes back to us, and there's the yes or no.
I don't
That's
think
not
that's the
very
process.
Let's find out what her process
Yeah.
is.
I don't think that's,
Well, I didn't determine that part. I think that is because the Florida statute said that the finding committee's role is to confirm or reject
Got
the
it.
board's.
Right.
I don't think it's
Well, in
it's the
theory, we
advisory
are.
board.
Well, let me ask you this. I wasn't at the meeting, so can the finding committee be the board?
yes.
Yes.
It can be, the board of directors can be the finding committee.
Okay, so,
Because some people don't have.
that's right. I mean, you're talking about some places don't have a covenant,
But
right?
we're not gonna say we have
So-
to cover it.
Right, yeah, well, wait a
I guess in
minute.
another situation would be that case, but in our case, it would be the board levies the fine and then the covenants committee confirms the
Yeah,
fine.
let me read some of her lead,
So you're
okay?
saying you just take that process all the way out?
Maybe, but I'm just saying, you know.
Here's the deal.
Yep.
Under the paragraph statutes, a fine or suspension may not be imposed by the Board of Administration without at least 14 days notice the person sought to be fined or suspended.
Mhm.
And an opportunity for a hearing before a committee of at least 3 members appointed by the board who are not officers, directors, or employees of the association will hear that, they'll hear that.
But that's always been the case.
You cannot be the judge and jury in this, okay?
You have to allow.
You have to have the hearing.
And then furthermore, let me read what this, it says furthermore, the amendment specifies, this is the amendment now that changes the statute, specifies that a fine can only be levied by the board. So that's your role, only levied
Okay, got
by.
it.
And it clarifies that the role of the finding committee over here is limited to confirming or rejecting the fine or suspension already approved by the board. So
But-
that's why it's limited.
But what it's not saying is, there's 5 violations on that house. They've approved 5 separate violations. The guy, it comes to us and we find out that 2 of those 5 have already been taken care of.
Right.
We're gonna thumbs up on a fine or a violation that's already been repaired?
Right. And it does have the language in here about fine or suspension. So if there's separate fines, it may be the same house, but there's multiple fines on that house.
Right.
So-
You're getting fined $100 a day per, for the roof. You're also getting a fine for the painting.
So the
You're also
covenant-
getting a
The
fine.
covenants
Right.
committee role on that scenario would be that we have 5 thumbs up or 5 thumbs down for that particular incident.
Yes.
But what we'll do, just to be 100% clear on this, we'll send it to Larson again, just to clarify on specific fines.
And Tim, like, what I want to say again is, I would like to see the covenants committee meet 2 days after the board meeting
Yeah,
on
we agree with
Thursday.
that.
Well,
And that way,
I guess my question with that though, they were not, from the time that they were fined at the board meeting, they would, 2 days is probably not very realistic for them to be able.
give a letter where
Okay.
you have 14 days notice to appear before the board.
We'll agree to
And
clean up the-
to the covenants committee.
Okay.
My issue is, rather than stretch this out forever and ever and ever, let's, and not put you in a position where they may have fixed something and you're questioning
Yeah,
that.
it's all in time.
Give them 2 days and that's done. It's all done.
Yeah, because you're right, Jim, that they wouldn't have time
Yeah.
to, you're not muddying the water. by
retaliate,
saying,
yeah.
"Oh,
So
it's
basically,
The
the
other
difference
thing-
is the board is the one that has to do the fine.
Or
Yes.
fines.
That's it.
But the other thing that, by doing it that way, is, the other thing by doing it that way, not only do you add the leverage of the board, but you also add the leverage of the finding committee is also in that same letter. So they're gonna take notice on that one.
Right. Well, we would re-inspect the properties the day of the hearing, just like we always do. Because if they have completed it by the hearing date, you're
And
not.
they get fined for 2
gonna
days.
You gotta remember too,
Oh.
the cost factor, what it's costing either for mail outs, their time, that gets factored into that fine. So it might be a $500 fine, that's just to cover the cost of all the mailing, especially if you're sending to Brazil or the UK or wherever the heck else they live, and none of them answer anything anyhow. You gotta get in the expenses.
So is she gonna go over the procedure?
Yes, but my question, what about the week after the board meeting?
You could do that, but I would just like to have both, the notice for both meetings in one letter,
Sure, I think that makes sense.
okay?
You wouldn't want to push it back to the meeting the following month, because then
Yeah,
you're
you
just
don't want
adding
to.
another
You wanna get it
month.
over with.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and just as soon as possible after our meeting. I mean, right now you have the first Thursday of the month,
Right.
okay? Some cases, that's almost 2 days after us, but in most cases, it's gonna be a week and a half after us. So I'd just assume the last Thursday of the month have your meetings.
But I think your question's important, and it's a good, is if the fine is levied with the board, and then it's a week later, or even 2 days later, and then the hearing comes and they finished it, have they accrued the fine from the board meeting, or is
They-
it rejected now because they're
What do we
done?
do now? We accrue fines until the date we finish.
Why?
So they would have the fines through that date.
I just want to
Yeah, let's
clarify.
clarify the statute. That's not the case. That's statute.
But if the board, if
But
they're,
that's
if the board, if it has to start with the board,
Didn't say it.
can't the governance committee meet? Again, maybe I haven't read it. Governance committee meet, do their thing, and we just accept right away, we automatically accept a fine straight away. The board, they've done, they meet, they do the same thing,
Worth asking the
why can't we just accept the fine as soon as they meet, after they're done?
That's what we're doing right now.
But I mean, literally, this second, I mean,
This, the fine has to be established by the board.
To be the very first group.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
does it say the very first, or it says
Yeah,
has to be the fine? It doesn't say the very first, it says the
It
fine.
says, boards may levy a fine or suspension. The planning committee must approve the fine or suspension in its entirety or cannot be imposed.
That's just fair.
It has to initiate from the board.
Well, they're still initiating the
We asked
fine.
that.
Right,
We're
right.
just making the
No,
recommendation.
when we were at the meeting, we specifically asked Larson that question, and they said the fines have to be initiated by the board.
Now that they are initiating.
But
Right.
they really said the role of the finding committee is only to do thumbs up or thumbs down. You're not
Right.
to play any other role.
But the
You're not to be reviewing and making a recommendation which the board then picks up and says, this is what we're going to do, and you rubber stamp.
What's the difference whether we do it or staff does it?
Right.
But yeah,
The difference is statute specifies the only role of the finding
They like to
committee
twist it.
is to look at the actions
hard.
taken by the board and say, yes,
And the other thing they pointed out too at that meeting was because it's so new, they don't really know how this is going to be upheld if it goes to the Supreme Court. before the Supreme Court. So
this,
they're being very literal in their explanation of the term that says can only be levied by the board and clarifies, this is what they really thought was important, clarifies the role of the finding committee is limited to confirming or rejecting the fine.
So you're going to clarify whether or not 3 out of 5 mean a thumbs up or down?
Yeah, I have it written down.
And then could it be a subset, you know what I mean, where it's could it be a subset of where they're still a finding committee, but they're not the ones that did, you know what I mean? There's a subset of this group that is the finding committee. I think what we're doing is we're listing the Larson, which is fine, but either, and there's probably maybe some other ways to do it, that maybe some other attorneys or other groups are going out to do it. I think that we're really making it difficult for ourselves.
We did ask Becker Falkov also, and their opinion was that it is the board does the finding and the covenant.
No, I don't disagree with that.
We didn't get a legal
it's
written
very
from them, but in conversation.
it's very clear the board does that, but it's also maybe our way we can get around that by the board doing it, but yet there's some.
Lee, let me just say one
You're
thing.
looking for an advisory committee, basically, right?
We are in a situation right now, we've got to make a decision on a process now. We can't delay month after month to come up with a solution, so. Whatever.
We moved July's altogether because we had to start filing state statute.
So let's go through your process, but I think that shouldn't still in any way.
Well,
right?
I think it very well is appealable.
That's right, exactly right. Yeah, I think that I mean, I guarantee we're doing something next
Need
year.
an association then that.
Well, I guarantee that every association is doing it differently, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. I would guarantee that not every association is doing it the same way, because it's a new rule, and I would imagine other people are doing it differently.
But we don't want the one to have to go to court to
So are you
statute.
asking
We don't want to be the
for
test
different
case.
options?
Let's go through what you're doing now, but I would say, on a side note, I think we need to investigate how other people are doing it with other groups, and maybe there's a way to do it, because it clearly says who's allowed to find and who's not. It doesn't say that you can't do a couple of things that
I
we
can
talked
tell you,
about.
Susan, our new community manager, is the incoming president for the Florida chapter of CAI. So this may be something that could be a CAI topic that
Correct.
we could bring up to other communities.
Well, actually, October is, and we have a panel of attorneys, and it's a legal, not a legal update, but a legal question and answer meeting. So I would invite anyone here to come to that meeting. It's the October the 1st. We're not sure if it, I think it's gonna be a breakfast at the Maitland Sheridan, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. And please come to that meeting and you can ask any question that you want. And there are 3 or 4 attorneys up there that can answer for you.
Maybe 3 or 4 different opinions.
Completely, I guarantee you. There's no doubt about it, right, that's exactly right.
How many fines have went to lienable status in 2014 and 2015?
I would say that we probably don't have any that that we did a lien on.
If
So-
it's been approved as an S9, it's a lienable status.
Right, okay, but so the question is, how many went to S9s? We'd have to pull.
Well, those would be lienable, but
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we did a lien on any of those, is what I'm saying.
Right, right.
You hold them for a certain period before you lien them?
Yeah.
Or do you have a process on that?
And it's usually more than just the fines that are in question. It's typically assessments are past due. There's a bankruptcy case, there's a foreclosure going on. So there's a lot of different variables that take place.
I guess part of my question was, due to that, is if you're not doing lienable fines, where you don't have to go to court,
Right.
in other words, you know, it's a, then I don't disagree with the state law and how you have to do it, but it makes it less of something that we have to follow this exact. Because if you do fine and someone pays the fine, it's no big deal. If you wind up waiving a lot of fines that are $800 over the years, and that goes away, then that's no big deal. It's only the lienable fines that you really have to worry about.
Which under the statute is
But
now
statute doesn't say
$1,000.
$1,000 or greater.
However, if somebody doesn't pay their $500 fine within 90 days, their amenities and voting rights get cut off, so, you know, in celebration of great amenities.
Yeah, I mean, I think we totally understand. I just think that there's probably we're gonna create a way to go forward, but there may be a better way or a different way to do it, and we're gonna find out in the next couple months from other people.
Assess how much longer those regular board meetings are going, how many people are showing up for those.
Yeah, and it's really, to me, it's not the burden on the board, it's more the burden on the resident in some ways that I'm concerned in, because the more more fines, you know, so that's why I'm interested in how your process is, because to me, I think we're gonna have more fines, but maybe you're gonna,
And that should not be our goal.
that's right, exactly.
Our goal should be to, our goal should be to get the residents to.
And make it easier for the
have
residents to understand the process and all that kind of stuff.
We're getting none of our fines.
Okay, so let's go through the process.
Well, and again, what's he saying?
No, he's pointing at you to go through the process, so let's do that.
Don't give them a chance to speak.
Yes.
Ignore everybody.
And again, this isn't, when we're going through the process, this isn't the finding process, because obviously that's our discussion about the board versus the Commons Committee, and we have our questions to ask, and we'll get legal, you know.
But we need to make a decision on that, don't we?
You don't get to vote on anything tonight. I think it's
Sure,
just
but we need to make a
discussion.
process so we can make a decision in the next board meeting on that, right? So
Yeah.
we can't wait.
It's the end of this anyway, so no
Yeah.
matter how you do it, the
Right.
voting always is the.
Got it,
The
okay.
end result.
Okay.
So basically, though, the inspection process is talking about how do we go forward and ultimately, like we said, avoid people getting fined, residents getting fined, because they have the information, they have the tools, providing the assistance that we can through town hall and on our website and any kind of communication. And this is also looking back, and I'm sure there's people that want to chime in, looking back at the 2014 cleanup campaign and seeing how we fared there. Did we feel like it was a success? Was there room for improvement? You know, et cetera. The first item that we used to use, or we did last year, was the map, which is a compliance map. And you'll see there's copies in here of old maps that we used. I have to bring them. Right. And then there's the new one that we worked on. And we got the community standards team to get together and kind of did some brainstorming on things. And based on what resident feedback we got, you know, a lot of it was, this isn't my house. You know, what does this mean over here? And, you know, this doesn't describe my problem. And, you know, how did you come up with roof cleaning, or how did you come up with...
Or is it roof cleaning in one area and not the whole thing? I think is one issue, right? You're pointing at one place.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, it wasn't as organized as it could be. You know, it was good, but everything can be improved on. And I'm sure better, more into categories. We addressed some items that weren't there before, such as lights and fans and door hardware. We made the section here at the top more clear to people that this is just to assist you with locations. This home is only a sample, not meant to reflect your actual property. You know, we honed down on specific things to do. You know, need replacement or repairs, needs painting, trimming needing for your landscape, or, you know, dead sod, missing hardware on your shutters. So, you know, different things like that. And I take it, I went out and did some inspections, and when you're looking at a house and you have this, it's very clear to you what you can look over, and you can get through the inspection process quicker because you've got some flags to let you know things to check. The second one was pictures. When we did the green up cleanup, we started with the map, and then the board at the time wanted 2 more communications. So it was the map, then there was a first letter, then there was a second letter going to the planning committee. There wasn't pictures put in there because our first communication was a general letter with the map. So going forward, we have the capability through SmartWeb to add pictures. So your letter would be sent to you, your first letter, and we would use the map as a backup, if so. And we also have at least 1 picture, maybe 2. I think it does up to 2 pictures. So for instance, you're missing landscape. Well, where am I? That was a big question. Where am I missing landscape? It's a very generic term. You're missing landscape here in your front right bed. Here's a picture. You see the bare spot. Okay, now I understand. I don't have to call town hall. I don't have to, you know, be upset. I know it's like they're picking on me. I see. Obviously, there's something missing there. Communication methods. Residents didn't often say they didn't receive the map or the letters. They were often surprised to be sent a hearing notice. You know what I mean? I don't know what you're talking about. All of a sudden, not any of this stuff, right?
Of course.
And well, the U.S. Postal Service, sometimes that happens. So then what we want to do going forward is to mail the 2 letters at least, and the goal is to actually email them as well if possible. But at least mail the 2 letters and then mail and email the 3rd one. So when you get your 3rd notice, you get it by email, and it says we have sent you 2 prior notices at this point, and now you have your 14 days or whatever amount of time you have until the meeting. So you know it's not a surprise. You know, we're not relying on just the mail. We're using the communication a lot of homeowners do today because we're all busy. You know, I don't know how many envelopes I don't open.
Is it possible to do an email for the first letter, and a regular letter and an email?
I fooled around with the program a little bit today to try to find out. There's some challenges on what stage it goes through and how much of a revision process you have between when you create. So it's a program. I've got some calls with the technicians who help me figure it out.
I would think that because a lot of times people don't receive it, and then now you've got, what, how many days? We've got 90 days before they actually maybe even receive it by email.
And possibly from somebody that they're renting the unit to.
Right.
May not give it to them until they're back in town or
Yeah, a
something
lot
like
of
that.
times that would happen.
Yeah.
So you're increasing the chances. When I started in this position, I started before the covenant email to all the homeowners just to say, hey, you're on the agenda. Just a last shout out to you. You know, if you give us your applications, contact us. We can work with you. And I got a lot of response and it reduced the agendas down significantly. So we started emailing that second letter now instead of just mailing it. So I would love to email every letter, honestly. I do have to look at the program and what the capabilities are from the actual, you know, home base.
I would say if we can, I think that it would be beneficial.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Say every email you can. And then you have to encourage homeowners to give us your email information. Because a lot of times.
Since you have to print those anyway, like I've got a very high-speed scanner at home. You take 15, 20 pages and it's a zip, and you just address it and it's off. Even if you don't have it in your program,
You need to scan it,
it
create
can
like
be
a
a very
PDF.
quick, it goes to PDF and bam, it's out.
Yeah, it takes longer, but you're right, it can be done.
If you buy a high-speed scanner, it won't. You have to print it.
It takes multiple stuff. It feeds it
You just
up
feed it
top.
in.
It's pretty fast. It's for
The
that.
one that we have is pretty quick, but it's if you do them all in one, it's all one PDF, right?
Yeah,
It's separate them in
PDF.
Yes, if you have.
Say your name,
But you have
that day. just
But
4
you
or 5.
have, but you have to print each one individually anyway.
You're about to put it in the mail anyway, right? You're about to stick it in an envelope and send it to him. What he's saying is just drop it in and take an extra minute to...
To address it, email it.
Anyways, I would get the software figured out.
Yeah,
Well, that's what we're.
Because you know what? When you before you hit the print button on almost every computer, you can print to PDF, and you can click the little send button.
Yeah.
Even if the software doesn't do it, your computer should be able to do it. So it shouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
Yeah, that's exactly. So it shouldn't be that difficult. If Eric were here, he would have said that 10 minutes ago. I just figured I'd throw that in. Okay.
So then, going forward, last year, all the letters were mailed, and then looking forward to kind of taking a different approach to reach out to the homeowner via email when it's a small or isolated item. And this would be something to where, you know, this would be clear to homeowners, that if you have a single item or it's small, we're gonna reach out to you via email, and of course, if you can email all owners too, that's great. But mulch, trimming and edging, missing a shrub, right? We'd like to not have to send you a letter if it's one shrub. Cleaning the fence, maybe cleaning just your sidewalk, store items away, you know, if you've got a lot of it you've left out, you know, we're gonna reach out to you and see, can you please do that? Major items would, of course, be mailed, like wood damage and repairs, house cleaning, roof cleaning, unapproved ARC changes. Of course, if you mail it and they don't take care of it, you do continue on in the process. It's just to reach out instead of sending the letter right away. And again, this is information that's posted, so everybody knows that this is how, there's no selective enforcement here, this is how we're treating this item for everybody. Do you know what I mean? Across the board. In the past, what we had when we did the inspections for Green Up, we had a volunteer group. I know a lot of y'all were on that group, and we went out and hit the whole community within like a month or two, right? And then everybody got their first letter, and then we had one person to follow up. And that's just that stuff. It's like a funnel, right? You get it all in there, and then one little drip comes out at a time. And so the time between the first letter, the map, and the second was a long time. We saw that in appeals, when people would come to appeal, and we said, well, why did it take you so long? So, and also, there was, that created frustration because homeowners sometimes would say, well, I did that already. Well, now it's 3 months later, it's dirty again. But you have to give homeowners credit for the fact that they did the work. So now, on here it says one village at 3 months, but what we did is we kind of did, I went out with Mary Jane and we did some inspections the other day, and we took an average of the homes that we were looking at. And basically, our goal, our thought is to do the whole community every 6 weeks. And that's taking, instead of this very detailed community-wide inspection approach where we're looking at little tiny things, we're kind of going by and we're saying, okay, let's look at this house. How does this house look? It looks good. It's not hurting the street. Yes, they need to clean their sidewalk. Yes, I see, you know, they need to clean their fence or something, but we're not tacking on this individual specific, you know, magnifying glass to your home. Because to be honest, we just did that, right? We went through the whole community with the cleanup. Every house got hit with a huge list. If your house is in dire need of paint, you're going to get a letter. It's not that you're not going to. It's just that we're not going to spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes on every house looking to find out what we can find. You know, we're going to take a more quicker, more step-back approach at your house, your property overall, and what are the important things that have to be taken care of right now.
You can honestly too, if you're doing it every 6 weeks, you're gonna see some patterns. So if you go out this 6 weeks and then you come out another month and a half later and you see some things that maybe are growing issues like paint, it doesn't mean you wouldn't still send a nice letter or a nice email or something along those lines. It just means that the intention behind this isn't an entire cleanup process. It's a regular inspection of each village. That make sense?
What are your thoughts, Robert?
I'm absorbing it all. I think I go back to how do you defend your picking on me statement from the resident, where you can stand behind Green Up Clip and say, we did the entire community, where now you're saying you're walking casually through a street. How do I know you're not picking on me?
I would think that if you took the process of just as somebody would be walking through our neighborhood looking at houses, right? You have somebody coming in. If you took that view and you're walking down the street and you notice that the sidewalk is messy, you're gonna notice it for the entire block you just walked.
But I also think celebration is about the details. So the step back approach, although sounds lovely, I think that what we're known for is the details as well. So I'd hate to make sure we don't lose that as well in the inspection.
Well, and I think that if we were to go a more routine to where we could get each village, because right now I think one of the biggest issues is we haven't been in North Village in a while because we're so busy with green up cleanup. We haven't been in South Village for a while. This gives us the ability to get through these villages on a more consistent level. And I think it essentially takes away your picking on because now we're there more often. We can do some nights and we can do some weekends and we can look at commercial vehicles. We can look at non-discrete business activity. We can look at some of those things that are happening on times when people know we're just typically not in the office. We don't have
Go ahead.
Do you have the capability though of getting through the whole town every 6 weeks? That sounds like a lot to me.
Well, and we did some math and they went out and they looked at what it would look like and
But that's what I got. That's really what I was going to say is too, is that community's getting bigger, it's getting older. I look at this as the more you do, then the more you're out of the office kind of helping the residents, right? You know what I mean? You know, your function, I think, that has been helpful is being able to sit there and talk to residents and walk them through the process because they need it sometimes or to work them through. So I question if you have enough people to handle what you're talking about because to talk about what you're doing, it's going to require, I mean, you could do it. I mean, you have this, and then you're going to be really busy, and you're going to be fighting it for 8 months, and you'll be doing nothing but doing this for 8 months, or whatever it is. And it's really just about going through the process of if our job is to inspect a certain amount of houses and then respond to the residents, which is to me very, very important, looking at the guest service, customer service response, how we're doing, improving in that, and having you be able to talk and answer a phone and talk to them. And sometimes you have to talk residents through, you know, it is what it is. Is there enough of you guys, or even, you know, volunteers, more of them, to do that? And I question that you're going to be able to do it.
right. The flip side, I think, to that argument was Spring Cleanup happened in 2014.
Yeah.
We haven't been able to do consistent village-to-village inspections since then, and we're already at the end of 2015 and we're not done.
Well, so what's changed then? What's going to change to make you do better?
Well, we're still doing all of the, follow up the letters from the big, detailed inspections.
Yeah, but I personally haven't. I mean, this is just me. I haven't heard from you guys that you could do it better, faster, stronger. I don't think you've changed anything to make it. You know, at the end of the day, I'm not digging on you. You know what I mean? In a bad way. I'm just saying that I haven't heard that there's a process to make it run better, to make it more efficient, because you're using the same people, and maybe you change the method, but you're just switching 3 months from here, 2 months from here. I don't see us getting through the process any faster or better. Anyway,
Well,
sorry.
I'm sort of with Adam on what he's saying there.
That's late.
I'm sorry.
Wrong meeting.
I'm sorry. You sat in the center. I thought
Yeah,
back. In that, if you come through every 6 weeks and you happen to notice something in my house, and you send me a letter on it, and I go ahead and take care of it, and now, but 6 weeks after that, you happen to notice something else that was probably there that same day, I'm just going to be irritated, better than what I was going to say. I'm just going to be irritated by that. And what they've done in the past, years ago, and I'm not sure how many years, because probably before 2008, is they used to say, this month we're going to do North Village, this month we're going to do Celebration Village, this month we're going to do South, East.
You did for cleanup.
Right, and you got it fixed beforehand, kind of.
But you
With the
spend a
defense, you did
month,
that.
you spend a month doing it,
Yeah.
then maybe have 2 weeks off to take in that flat from those people that, what am I having wrong? Then you spend a month with the next village, you got 2 weeks for those, next village, 2 weeks for
The
those.
problem is there's just so much follow-up.
Right.
It's required.
Trying to eliminate the funnel.
Yes.
Well,
But
correctly, now that we're growing.
well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yes.
That doesn't eliminate the follow-up.
But I agree with you.
But I want to hear it from. But I want to hear it from. Right. I mean.
Yeah, but I don't want to have people paranoid every single month that somebody's going to come by and inspect it, okay?
You should be paranoid every single day that somebody's going to inspect you.
That's not
I
what
mean, not paranoid, but
There were a lot of streets who came out together, though. They knew when their village was being done. They did sidewalks. They were preparing for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was a major inspection. You know, I think if we do it at a lower key, you know, maybe once every 6 months you hit the full village. But in the meantime, you do a spot inspection of the whole place.
Right.
You know, I just don't think we ought to create paranoia. You know?
Oh, I'm not suggesting paranoia or anything. I mean, what I mean is, I just don't know if we have enough volunteers and staff to do what we say we're going to do. That's all.
Well, and I think, yeah, we can definitely use an additional inspector. So we can definitely use one more inspector. Yeah.
But I also hear Nick saying, I think, that you really need to expand or maybe even split the covenants committee. One would really work with the people on this preliminary stage. I don't know, you know, that why don't you come and discuss, if you feel it, you know, would be unfair, come and discuss the issue. I think that would be okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the rules that are coming in, I'm more familiar with 718, and that's really always been the 718 where you have the covenants committee that would say yes or no, and then it would go on. They're now trying to, I guess, bring 718 in.
Well, this is 720.
720. Right, this is 720, and they want to sort of make them more similar. But, you know, the idea of a kind of friendlier, you know, the same things that you guys used to do where somebody could come in, talk about their issue if they feel there's a problem and it's not fair. But it unfortunately would have to then be a separate there would have to be a separate threesome that would just do the covenants and the fine.
Yeah.
I think one of the pros of using just the one inspector or if there's an additional is that what happened when you had volunteers is that they were instructed to look at this thing and just find all the little things that were wrong. They weren't familiar with the streets. When you have one inspector or two going around the community every 6 weeks or even 8 weeks, they're getting to know the streets. They know what's been there. They know when something's different. It catches their attention. And then there's that follow-up because you send the first letter out, you're coming back around, they haven't done it, you're sending the second letter out. You come back around, now they still haven't done it, you're sending your third and your final notice, right? Before, what happened is you had the letter, then months later, you know, you got your second letter. So there was that inconsistency in time frame to back up what the letters were saying. So you have to go back around that many times just to check on the people. So if, you know, if we allow more time to get through the community as far as taking less time to sit and stare, then I think, you know, we're benefiting the homeowners. They don't feel like, oh my gosh, I got this 101 to-do list again. I just got through with this last year. You know, now I see where you're coming from. Yes, I see this stuff. Okay, I'll take care of it. You know, we hope that that's kind of the route that people are going instead of this, you know, crazy nitpicking thing. People did feel like we were nitpicking. And people did do a lot of work in their homes this past year. I mean, there was so much painting, so many fences, so many roof cleans, so much wood damage repaired. And obviously, if we see something like that's major, it's going to go on the letter. But are we sitting to look to find something that's with your property? You know, we're not. We're going to go down the street and we're going to say, all right, the sidewalks, you know, the landscape that got something going. I see the roof needs it this year. All right, we're good. Let's move down, you know, the next house.
Part of the challenge that I heard too was that when the inspectors were going through, literally some of them were going in the back of their houses in areas where we really shouldn't be monitoring it.
I don't know if you did this.
We saw some of the letters that came through. And
We took pictures from the alley, but we didn't go on the property.
Yes, it's all public areas, so from the alley would be included.
But that. Yeah, I'm like, it's from the back of the house. There were a lot of people that I heard from, at least when I was running. It's like, are you serious?
Well, we've seen that.
Garage apartments, they're just the same part of the house.
Well, but it's not even talking about the garage apartments. They were talking about inside their backyard. If you could see it from the alleyway as you're driving past.
Maybe.
There were some people that stuck lights back there, or they stuck a basketball goal back there. You know, unfortunately, that falls into an unapproved change.
Okay, so, yeah, so I think is everybody okay? We've gone through like part one of this, right? And I think what we're all saying is as we move forward is, we like the direction, but if you look at the KPIs for this department, it's, is it by fining or is it really by customer service? You know what I mean? And making sure that we have compliance. And I think you have to kind of look at your KPIs and see how do you come about, what do you need as a governance committee to, department to run it, to make it better. And if it's switch volunteers do different things or that kind of stuff, or maybe even slow down these things, I think we're all for it. But we want you to we want better, and I'm not saying we haven't gotten it because I think we have, better, customer service, but how do we get to it? And I think it's all these things that we want. You guys, does it close how many times? And we'd love to evaluate how people go through the process, and it take a long time. But what's their idea? Nobody likes being fined, but at the end of the day, is it better than what it used to be? And I think it has. We can get better though.
So the inspection schedule that you have in our packets is something you believe is doable with the staffing you currently have and the volunteers you currently have?
Well, we would be using volunteers.
So you'd be strictly doing, okay, so all the inspections and everything would strictly be
And that's based on not such a detailed, inspection as far as stopping and looking at it.
Yeah, Susanna, this is effective January 1st. Okay.
Well, January.
Okay.
You're gonna clean up all that's left.
Finish the rest of it.
In the next couple of months.
Right.
And you think that's reasonable that you would be able to do that?
There'll be very high agendas, which you will
Right.
be seeing September and October, but that would be cleaning up all the major items like the roof of the green up cleanup. The big jobs like painting and roofing and major landscaping and stuff like that.
Okay.
So the other half of that, of course, is to educate the residents so that you're giving them as much information and as much tools ahead of time so that when they go to work on their house, again, maybe they don't have as many questions because the information's on our website, or you can call and we can talk to you about it, we can meet with you. But a lot of things that we discovered that homeowners ask that we'd like to help put out there for answers is a lot of how much mulch is enough, right? People always ask that, how much is it? No red mulch, it saves people a lot of time because they automatically go buy that stuff and then you gotta send them a letter of sorry and they gotta change it. How to fix garage door dents, best way to pressure wash your sidewalks, how to get rid of driveway stains. That's something I just learned from Eric in the appeal meeting, that was great. Tips for safe roof cleaning time of year for some works, posting more videos, fertilizing your lawn, what it means to define your beds. That's a big question we get almost every day. What does that mean? What does edgy mean?
Couldn't you include some kind of a cover letter in a packet or something like that in the welcome packet? And literally started from day one, here.
On just some information.
You moved the celebration, these are the standards.
Well, even when everybody gets their first letter, right? Included into that?
Sure,
Yeah,
put like a list of covenant tips.
Well, when we're going back to that, I asked a couple months back about, there's a requirement in our charter that documents are passed to the next person, the next owner, and it's a $150 fine in case that doesn't occur. Have we ever ensured that it's occurred?
They signed the document stating that they received it.
Yes, but
That's,
We
that-
go
we-
and check to see if
but
it's-
it's actually something in our documents that says there'll be a $150 fine if they don't receive it within 6 days of closing.
Basically, you have to provide the covenants to the new buyer. right?
Not me, the previous owner does.
I know.
So,
A physical copy, because I was told.
Either way, it can be
it just
downloaded,
says,
whatever. But I just want to make sure, because so many people said, well, I've never received them. And I don't understand why this is occurring.
That would be a follow-up, after a house is closed, a follow-up to say, did you get the covenants? That can also be included with that whole welcome packet.
But you just bought a house. You know how many thousands and thousands of documents you have. I mean,
I understand that, but you're buying into a homeowners association
yeah,
too.
but that's why I agree. Never seen which would be great to look at, is do we have an FAQ that really says you're moving into celebration, things are maybe possibly different, and kind of.
And
Make
everybody,
sure, yeah, any ERC, a request must be submitted for any change
Right,
to your house.
exactly.
What would be wrong with in your welcome packet if you're going to deliver something physical to them? A thumb drive or a CD of the governing
You make them
document?
sign for it.
well,
Make them
Well, we
sign
have
for it.
the government documents on a CD for $15, right?
Steve, I gave you a 4-page document of notes that had to deal with the rules from Exhibit C.
Yeah.
What
It's 50
is
cents.
that?
It's the compiled notes that we have.
Yeah.
I still have it. Now, I mean, I know that we talked about holding off on all the Exhibit C stuff.
Well, no, this is extracted right from Exhibit C, and it would be appropriate to be given out to the individuals, because at least they ought to know the rules.
Okay, so what you're saying is something separate that's handed out?
Yeah, it's four pages that summarize Exhibit C.
Right. And get it,
I give those out all the time.
and have them sign for it. So this way, if they don't follow what's in there, you got it in signature. If they didn't, if they want to watch it, that's their problem.
I mean, some of the stuff it talks about is leasing, which we have a real problem with.
FAQ.
You know?
Okay.
I think moving on to some things that we could improve on going forward is ARC tips. I know everybody gets frustrated with the ARC process and what do I have to go through to get this application approved. So it's kind of like cliff notes for filing your applications. You know, here's this thing that's, yes, it's 6 pages long, but here's the bullet points, what you need to do. I think that's, and then also some examples of resident plans where they got things approved. Some residents always say, I'm not a landscaper, I can't draw this. I've had some residents who don't have any experience who submitted this great plan, and they just took the time and to show those examples out there for other residents. I have this one I always pass out. It shows people, I just gotta, draw some circles and a line. And
Whatever became of that, the design thing that Jeffrey was supposed to provide us, like a couple different patterns?
you're talking about the Florida-friendly plans?
Well, it was also landscape designs that you basically picked up. Is that in here too?
Florida-friendly.
Yeah.
I mentioned it in here, yes. I'd like to get those and post them on the website, obviously. That gives people, it was done, Chris Lathrop, is that who did it? Yes. She did some landscape plans per lot, based on if you get a cottage or an estate or a townhome, and using Florida-friendly plans. And so putting those out there for homeowners to reference, I think that on that same thing that skips down, putting our plant lists, they're very clear and available for people. Also posting a home expo, brochures that we have that have the vendors. We're not recommending anybody, but here's who attended the home expo. There's a lot of, people always ask nurseries. Let's put out a list of nearby nurseries that people can get some of the plants. Also, Home Depot has, I don't know if you'll know about this, but if your plant, if you buy it in a year it dies, you can go back and get a return.
Next 6 months, they
Is it
changed
6
it.
months?
Yeah.
They're catching on, but still. But it gives people a chance to kind of, get back and fix it before they get the letter.
But Susanna, this goes back to another issue then. If you go on our front porch into CROA under documents, how many of you guys have ever looked at the design guidelines there?
Everybody in there.
I think that's a loaded question.
Never.
My question is, you guys looked at it, how easy do you feel it is to access it?
It's one of our goals.
They're hard to get to.
Yeah, that's one of our, not only our strategic planning goals to redefine the website so it's more intuitive, it's more the way people think when they get on there. So we're working on that.
Okay.
But I think there should be, I get excited because I think that if you go on the website, there should be something that says community standards.
Right.
And this is your tools on what you need as a homeowner to work on your house.
Thank you.
Well, there's only
Thank
so
you.
much you can do with the way that our website is set up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, maybe
But if
we
you
probably need to think
website-
about fixing that, right?
Design
Yeah.
guidelines is a
It's
green.
because it's been
You have
there for
to
15 years.
Right.
scroll over to
Yeah.
find out if it's
Right.
active.
I tried posting it on my phone the other day. It was just awful.
I agree.
Well, again, it's on your strategic plan goals.
Yeah.
It's something that we put
Yeah.
in that board report every
Well,
month on the.
Can I go to ARC tips, and I appreciate what you're talking. I think, and maybe it's a completely different spot that we're talking about here, but residents and even somebody who's gone through the process, and said, your plant is not big enough. And I said, well, how big does it need to be? And you know what I mean? And one of those things where I can't tell you how big it needs to be. Does it have to be bigger than 6? Does it have to be 10? It's almost like a guessing game. You know what I mean? I was like, are you freaking kidding me? I'm like, is this how everybody goes through this process? And I almost flipped out. You know, this was a long time ago, by the way, so nobody was in the room at the time, not even here. Yeah. But yeah, no, and you know, and then I also said, can I choose my own color? You know, anyway. But what I see a lot of residents issue about is a little bit more info. Where can I get my paint from? And I see that's been done. But I think we shouldn't shy away from recommending somebody who's done work or knows celebration. And I think we shy away from that for some reason. And I think we need to somehow get to the point where we're doing a disservice to our residents by not providing that. Instead of saying, we don't want to provide the wrong person. Screw that, because at the end of the day, we need to help residents a little bit more.
That's Home Expo brochures that we're talking about. We're not saying, oh, we think you should use so-and-so.
No,
We're
completely.
saying, these are contractors that work in celebration.
Yeah.
You can call and get your estimate.
But it's also about more detail about specific paint colors and more fence vinyl. You know what I mean? I think we need this product. I think we need to get better at kind of doing that stuff.
I'll give you an example of what we got a notice on our mailbox. We first moved into the house and it was the mailbox and they said it's painted wrong color. I'm like, all right. It's green. It's the same green as everybody else's.
Right.
I'm like, it's green.
Right.
What do you want me to do? And I go in there and they said, no, you have to make sure it's, it's celebration green or whatever. When I went to the front desk, they it's celebration green. I'm like, okay, I didn't get celebration green. Do you know how hard it is to find celebration green? Even when you go to Color Wheel when it was Color Wheel.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Finally, I went in. I'm like, okay, I am so tired of getting this notice about this stupid mailbox. I just want to get it fixed. They said, go to Home Depot. You can get the green mailbox. They'll ship it to you. It's $19. I'm like, they don't have any green mailboxes at Home Depot. I'm like, I get a green mailbox. Finally, it was Celebration Hardware keeps them in stock. If somebody had just told me at that point in time, you know what, Celebration Hardware has the mailbox you need, go get it.
Right.
It was very easy. So I think to your point, we shy away from saying, if you have this problem, this person knows what they can do to solve it.
Well, but here's the issue though. That's just an over-the-counter transaction. If I've got a construction company or a contractor coming into my home to do work that was recommended by town hall.
But nobody's
recommended, and I'm not too worried about, legally, I'm not too worried about it. If we have to have them sign a stupid release that says we're giving you names of 10 people, and we're only giving you 10 names because we know they do this, and you can hold us harmless. But I just don't think we're doing the resident service. We're making them chase things, and people are just banging their head against the wall.
My point is you can't single out one company.
Yeah, well, if it's only one person that actually does it, then we should single out one, right? I mean, if it is only one person that only does...
Celebration Hardware has mailboxes, but there are other sources.
This is where we found it.
Yeah.
And Celebration Harbor might be the only place that we found it. I mean, shutters. These shutters, residents can't find shutters. Tell them where to find their freaking shutters.
People who come to paint, people who come to put pavers in, people who come.
But I think that even if you're looking for specific colors, right now everybody has to get their house painted.
Right.
We see that posted all the time.
Here's the formula. Here's the formula for white, blossom white. Here it is. Take it anywhere. Take the formula anywhere. I don't care where you go.
You're already working like that.
That's right. Right. I don't care where you go. This is the formula. Take it to any place and they'll make it for you. You know.
So those are the ARC tips I think that
The board setting up a level playing field for to be on a list.
Hey, whoever can help out a resident, they make it to our list, right? If they have an item.
I think the compromise in what we're trying to say is we need to provide resources, right? But we're not choosing who to pick. But we're giving you resources.
We've got that in services right.
Not everybody goes to the forum, but why should they have to try to get it from other residents? If I go to Susanna and I go, I need blossom white, where do I get it? And you say, you just have to find blossom white. And I go around and I say, it's Celebration Blossom White, and I keep on going, I get a door slammed in my face every time. We don't have that. And you know the formula. It's literally, why can't you just give me the formula?
I'm losing who to listen to here.
Yeah. All right, guys. Okay. Sorry. Okay, anyway, so I think that on the ARC tips as a board, I think we're looking for a little bit more help for the residents.
Recommendations.
Sounds good.
Because I think that's one of the bigger complaints that we get, right?
I think that's down in resources. It's a vendor list, because it's got painters, it's got construction, it's
Sure.
got fence, it's got, what we can do is we can come up with a list of 10, vendors.
The residents
As
want
long
to
as
tell us
we're,
vendors that have worked well for them.
Exactly.
Then we can call it a list of vendors that have worked well
That,
for us.
that's fine, as long as there's some
Exactly.
qualifiers on that list, because they better be licensed and insured.
right,
Okay.
exactly.
So we gotta be careful on this one.
A lot of factors.
And you may wanna look at the Better Business Bureau's recommendation. If they say-
If we have to go search these people, then we shouldn't be putting their name. Our job is, these are people, right? I mean,
They should be able to find it
Yeah.
on the website, like right there, be able to click on it.
right.
You know, like the mailbox thing, you have to go into architect. Go to mailboxes, then at the bottom in there, they put a little couple, there's two names in there. People don't know where to find it.
Exactly, it should be more readily available,
Yeah.
at your fingertips, and the goal would be to here is your residence section, here's where you click for all your help with this stuff. It's got mailbox, it's got paint stuff,
Right.
it's
How many
got-
paint and colors do we really have? We don't have 10,000, right? I mean, approved colors. I mean,
You want white, this is your white.
Right,
You want glossy
right.
white, this is your black. It's a
Exactly.
daily weekly white, it's a this white, it's a that white.
Just
You
give me
know,
the
it's just-
numbers, make it easy for me. And I'll choose one.
I will say, Ever, the painting world is a little more complicated than we think, you know what I mean? But we're working on trying to come up with, a standardized book now that you can actually go buy instead of color bill, which is all gone. And then also some on-website tools. They can also impose it onto their house to kind of see how their house looks.
But again, I'm not blaming you, but I've heard this for a long time. And what I mean is, I think we need to put some dates and actually, if this is a priority, because I think this has been a priority for the board, talking about resident,
Ease of access.
this, so it needs to be, we talked about it, and then we hired, say, Jeffrey, or, and nothing, we need to say, we'll get paint colors and chips, and we'll get numbers by the end of the year. I think we need you guys in your department, you say, these are our goals, just like this is a goal, is we want to get this stuff by the end of the year, or else it won't happen, or sometime, because if you don't put dates and times and people behind it and decisions, it won't
Yeah,
happen.
it's a perfect example of us getting to this point in this process.
Sure.
Because we asked if we had staff. We had staff working full days doing the cleanup stuff. We had to get us to this point to where we could start talking through this process, redefine the process. But I can tell you, if we keep doing things the way we're doing, we're going to get probably the same results that we have.
Correct, right. And if you said to us as a board, I need to hire somebody for 22 hours to do this paint stuff or something like that, it's gonna, we're not hiring a new FTE for this, we're hiring somebody, I need $300, I need $600, I don't think this board will shy away from
We
that.
have our budget
Right?
session coming up.
Yeah.
Well, just so you know, it is on my work plan.
Yeah, but you can't do it yourself. I'm not saying you have to do it. What I'm saying is,
No, I have
yeah.
done all the resources
Right.
together, so now I have a meeting set up with Jeffrey, and we're gonna go through,
Yeah.
and we're gonna finalize it, and we'll have the ARC approve it, and then it will come to you.
Yeah.
And it is a design guideline, so it has to go through the design guideline process, which means a notice has to go out to the homeowners before you can actually approve it in the meeting. Just so you know, I'd love to just kind of go, here it is.
But we just need to know that that's the direction in which you're headed, and at what point in time, what is the time that you are planning on having this complete? When is your goal? I want to have it done by the end of December.
and how can we help you get it done?
Yes.
Right? Do you need help from the board, anything else? Because I think, again, when you look at what the residents are issues, if you could take away those issues one by one, and then we get to just inspections, right? We get to these kind of things, and we'll have happier residents, and we'll do our job. That's kind of our job. Right.
Susanna, one question. I'm looking at the paint guidelines or something like that. And we list all these names, and I know the names change, well, actually, the formulas change year over year. Why can't we come up, get the actual formulas, and assign that to a name, and when the name changes, you still have the formula?
I've met with a few paint companies, and formulas change. You take the formula for eggnog.
But if
you
the
go
eggnog
to
is
it,
approved right
it's
now-
not that it doesn't come out the same. It just
It's
doesn't.
because the base paint is different.
It's different.
Yeah, that's
It
the
would be
problem.
great if it was universal, but it's not.
You could take a paint chip and have them match that paint chip.
And maybe we collect a lot of And maybe we collect some at the end. I don't know the answer, but there's an issue we need to solve.
Okay,
sorry. Go ahead.
When it was Dan Thompson, we used to put a little snippet in the celebration news about covenants and stuff. Why can't we start doing something like that where you talk about paint colors, you can talk about where to source paint, give them links to other things, and just
Well, you have done that.
Right into your hands.
Yeah.
Right into your hands.
You're already there.
Did you do a recent? It's hard to find it.
Okay, so it's 7 o'clock now, so let's,
Okay, let's wrap it up.
yeah, so let's,
Just hitting on one point that's really important, I think, is the evaluation criteria.
Okay.
A lot of residents gave feedback, why my roof and not the next door roof, or why my house needs painting, And I think, so what we did, we came up with some formulas that could work. It's like, for instance, looking at your visible panes of the roof, right? Because we can't say it's 50% basically, 50% is the benchmark. We can't determine your square feet of your roof, right? We can't say the math. So we say, what's a visible panes? And I did this the other day. We went and we looked. There was like 4 visible panes in the front. We walked around the side, the back. We had 8 visible panes. 6 were dirty. That was the formula we came up with. 6 out of 8 panes needed cleaning. That was, so if you came back in absence, that's what we would tell you. That's why we came up with your cleaning. The Commons Committee and I discussed painting and how do you decide someone needs to paint, because they always want to know. They said their feelings were, if a whole side of a house, a whole wall facade is dirty, right, or is faded, the whole house needs to be painted.
Yeah, you can't
Because
paint the side.
a whole, one side of the house being faded is not acceptable. So that was kind of the benchmark.
again, I'm just, because don't know how to hammer something or I'm not a great person, but if I'm in the western exposure of my house, it gets a lot more sun. How come I couldn't paint a portion? Maybe there is a portion that's faded.
It'll never match.
But an entire side of a house, right? Like an entire side of a
Yeah,
house.
but if you look at your house, if it's not right like this, you're gonna see the paint.
We've seen a lot of it.
But I think isn't it our thing that says our job is to say you need to fix your paint, right? So if they fix their paint and it works for them, if it doesn't match, then it's a different issue, right?
You definitely have to have a warning up front that says the whole house.
I'm playing dumb. I mean, our job is you have to be in compliance. So if you're in compliance, I'm not saying it's not. I mean, you might be completely right, but the fact is, if it doesn't match, it's another issue. So I mean, isn't that?
And 99.9% of the time, it will not match.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Exactly.
9 times out of 10, you paint that
Yeah, why
one,
would
it's
we do
fresh
the sign?
paint,
Yeah,
that's why I
you
think
turn the
I
corner,
got
it's a different color,
And then you get rid of the
Well, you got the money.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I just don't know. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. All right. Keep going.
I didn't go to argue with anybody about the mold. It wasn't the mold.
Yeah, we got everybody back there.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Just finishing up that page was the environmental factors about protecting your plants in cold weather and maybe some companies that provide environmental services. I was at someone's house in Winter Park and I saw an EPA paint company who used all environmental paints. And, those are some things that people are interested in, especially, cleaning alternatives, pesticide alternatives, providing some of that.
Right.
And then, of course, you have to, bring it down to the fact of promoting to residents why it's important that we're doing this, and we're not doing it to get, to get you. We're not doing it to make your life miserable and give you more things to do. We're doing it because your property values stay up, neighbor relations are better, you protect your home against future damage, it's going to cost more money, and there's a sense of community pride. We all come in and, we're working on the home, you see people out, doing stuff that it's all to the same purpose of what are our cornerstones, which is, our sense of place and taking care of things. The rest of the things are basically, we talked about volunteers and follow-up. Last year we did postcards. Obviously, because of the volume, it was really hard to keep up with. I think that our idea is to do a standard thank you email to residents when they're done that immediately goes to you. Thank you so much for doing your work. You're contributing and making Celebration the beautiful place it is. Thank you. And it goes to them right away.
What about a survey and something that they can actually comment in terms of how we can improve?
Definitely.
Yeah.
A faster turnaround by residents to complete their work. It's a quicker follow the line and frustration, less resentment and negativity towards town hall and community standards regarding inspections, because they know ahead of time what we're doing, they know ahead of time how we're going to look at it, what are going to be our decisions. We've given you all the tools we can as far as how to take care of it, how to do your ARC application. If not, come see us, we'll come meet you out there. More consistent inspections and eliminate possible perception of selective enforcement. If we're on it back, right afterwards, then, we know that we're in your neighborhood. We were there last, 2 months ago, and we're coming back around. Less room for argument with residents claiming they didn't know, right? Less administrative time answering questions that could less properties reaching the fining stage, and a better sense of community and buy-in to the inspection process.
Okay. It's good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think you're headed in the right direction, and I think you brought a breath of fresh air, and you've done a great job. So I think one thing that probably we need to, go through the finding process, and kind of hammer that out real quickly, intent to lien. So if we can somehow, 10,000 foot level, and try to go.
We went through the new covenant process now. That's the last 2 pages on this sheet. You've done that?
No.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, the only thing I'm saying is the covenant's hearing, it says 2 weeks later.
Right.
Well, I think
We'll modify that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine then. Let's go to.
We'll get to it, yeah. Okay, so discuss finding procedures.
Sure, for intent to liens, we got the AR report that came out to you guys this past month. It actually ran through July 28th. So you'll get a new AR report in the board packet. That's actually July 1st through July 30th. So it'll finish up those few months. So there's still some current items on there that are within the 30 days of your grace period to be able to pay your assessments. The 15 days then comes from August 1st through August 15th. So we won't have those for the intent to lien until the next meeting, until the meeting in September. The intention behind this thing is to have a form that will show you all your bankruptcies, all your foreclosures, all your current intent to liens, all your current claim to liens. And then we'll have another category of new residents that are past their time frame, and we will ask you to approve intent to lien letters for them. So again, we kind of see this at, and let me first say the reason why we're doing it this way is because brought up at the legal information that we went to the other day, we cannot be perceived as doing non-licensed practice of law as community managers. So we bring these to you as the board on the agenda. Again, it's kind of a consent agenda. There's 10, 15, 20, however many there are, and you approve them all through, then we send them to the process of intent to liens. And before, we would just get to that point, and they would go intent to lien. Now it's just an agenda item, so you guys can say, yes, they're all approved intent to lien, and then they go through that process. So you should be able to see on your AR reports all of those that you've approved intent to lien. Next month they'll be in the intent to lien category. If they go then another 45 days, you'll see them go through the claim of lien process. And then whatever happens with the foreclosures or with bankruptcy, you'll see where they fit into those categories. We're also going to provide you that we're getting from Becker Paul in that packet as well. So you'll be able to see that information and have that available to you. But the real change here is just instead of going intent to lien directly at 45 days, it comes to you as an agenda item now. It's approved and moved through. And we have a resolution to that also that just spells that out.
Okay. Any questions?
When are our next meeting dates for the covenants? And are we going to meet how many days after?
Well, we won't have a 14-day letter yet. We have a meeting next Tuesday, so there won't be a 14-day letter for you to do with it.
So we won't be meeting until September?
Well, at the end of September after the board meeting, you can do it right away, or the beginning of October.
So September will be a little bit different probably because if you're going to do the fourth Thursday of every month, the fourth Tuesday, I don't believe we're having board meetings the next week after that because of Yom Kippur. So we moved it back. So you will have both of those meetings in that same week, and then in October it'll be board meeting the week after covenants meeting.
Okay.
so we'll get back on the line.
Cool.
All right. Anybody have anything else?
I just have a quick question as a follow-up. Do we have a status on the Smart City or the Comcast stuff?
I have the agreement was sent to me by Amy Westwood. It's filled with lines, and there's a bunch of stuff that she needs to review still.
Okay.
So I emailed her again today to say, where are you with reviewing this?
Okay.
Does it look like it's something? What I'd like to do is have her come to the board meeting and talk to you about it.
Perfect.
If it's ready for this meeting. If not, then she'll go back with it and then come in September. I think after September, though, we're going to have to reach a point where it's either we can do it or we can't do it.
Yeah.
Because we're running out of funds, and you either going to have to prove to pay more to continue this process, or we're just going to have to, at some point, be done.
Let it go.
Okay. Anybody else on that? We have a list of things of future workshop discussions. If you see that on there, and there's a bunch of things that you guys would be very interested in, obviously, that are on there that Jack brought up. Probably not lakeside porta potties. There's a couple things we could probably do. There's probably a couple things we could do at the board meeting, I think. I mean, if you look at some of these items. But maybe if we have, we'll take maybe 5 minutes, we'll add one if you guys don't mind, and maybe just pick one, because it's been discussed on the front porch. Maybe just add one item, if you don't mind, Jack. Talk about the garage door closed, you know what I mean?
No, I don't know.
You want to skip?
That's really not one that's got priority for me. Really.
Is there one, because that's the quickest one, so I figured we'd get one out,
I
because
would
I think that would be
like to
quick.
get the bottom one first.
Okay, so that could be quick, all right.
And that basically is precluding companies from advertising in our media that are not friendly to celebration.
Okay, so,
So add that to this next board meeting agenda? Next week?
no, I think that for the board meeting, I think we could talk about the porta potties, I think, right? I don't think that needs to be a workshop. So if we take it from the top, let's look at these. Lakeside porta potties, I think could be in the board meeting. I think that could be added to the board meeting.
Add that to the next board meeting.
Yeah, I think so. Town hall signage in the front building, I think that could be a board meeting. It doesn't need a workshop.
But what are we trying to accomplish with these?
Figuring out, getting rid of them off this list.
Right, no, I understand that, but at the meeting, what is our goal with these particular things?
Lakeside porta potties is, I think the thing is figuring out how to remove lakeside porta potties so they're not there 24 hours, 24/7 there, right? Okay. Town hall signage in the front building, I'm not really sure. That was brought up. To put town hall on the outside of this building, I think. So I think that's a discussion that we could have.
So I guess that is the question, then. Do you want me to add it as a agenda item to approve signage for the?
Yeah, let's get it done.
No, I think it should be discussed. I think it should be a discussion item on the agenda. If we ask for it to be put on the next agenda for an action item, then we do that. But it's a discussion item on the agenda.
Yeah, move forward.
So-
Get bids on it, let's go with it.
You might put it as voting item, letters, table the vote to the next meeting.
Yeah, I just think that we haven't really discussed
Things you
it.
want to go through.
We haven't discussed it at all. Now, the porta potties we talked about.
Right.
That sounded like the whole board was in favor of somehow getting rid of porta potties. That's why I say that's.
Well, they don't like the smell down there, it smells.
Removal of topo map, 851 building,
Yeah, we use a
lobby.
saw for that. Cut it up and get rid
Let
of
me
it.
just say,
Hey,
the
Scott,
topo map in the lobby, I
We've been calling out
had
for
a
3
lady
years
from the
already.
K-8 school.
Right.
Here, and talk about donating it to them to use it for some of their classes.
Sure.
Yeah, cool.
And
Hey, give
that
it to
was
the
a wonderful
school, I'll
idea.
put it in the gymnasium.
Mr. Horaz, we can't just cut it up and throw it away. We have to come up with a good way of putting it somewhere where it can be of use.
Right.
It's part of the history of this town.
So you're still working on that plan. So you can maybe update that in the management, your management.
Steve's office.
Why don't you take a picture of it, put it on the wall?
So add that to your management report. I would add that to your management report and update us on the meeting. Okay, so amendment to paragraph 12 in Exhibit C, keeping garage doors closed. So real quickly, for those of you that don't know, Jack brought up adding an amendment because some garage doors are staying open all the time. And there was some discussion on the front porch about it, which was, I thought, good discussion.
Yeah, I did, but the problem is it's very hard to define how long the door can stay open and closed. So I don't want to get into that.
That's minutia.
So I prefer to drop that.
Okay, all right, so that's dropped then. I didn't think it was horrible, but I thought maybe you have to define it, but we define a lot of things. Okay, amendment to Exhibit C to include wording for construction trailers. Can you explain that?
Well, first off, I want to make sure that anything that's approved by ARC for improvements that would have a construction company or anybody else bring a trailer in here they understand that trailer doesn't stay here over the weekends, doesn't stay here overnight.
You mean when they do, when the ARC does an approval,
It's
says,
in the
It's
boilerplate that this must be removed, and if it's not removed, the owner can be fined.
can we make this a little fast? Can you bring this to the ARC and ask them to kind of come up with something?
I think we have something in there
Okay.
that we just need.
And then it comes back to us to look at. How about
It's
that?
not on construction trailers, but the boilerplate for the dumpsters too.
Because I'm assuming they think the same, I'm assuming they think this is a good idea also, and they
porta
probably,
potties.
they take this up also.
I think eventually it should go on the structural guidelines.
There you go, okay.
I agree, and it is part of the structural guidelines, but most people don't see that far down the
Okay.
page 10.
Alright.
But I think in the approval, it's got to be in the approval so that the owner says, hey,
And let the
I've
con-
checked this off and I will not let this happen.
Right, the contractor signs it also. Have the contractor sign it.
So it's something the ARC can take up and discuss and bring back to us as a guideline that we can approve at some point. What do you think?
We
Okay?
can only hold the residents responsible, we can't hold the.
Yeah. Okay. Amendment to C, storing toters in front of the garage rules change the format. So you want to explain
All
that?
right, let me just explain this. I talked with some people earlier.
Okay.
In our current Exhibit C, it says that garbage toters cannot be visible from the front facade. Okay?
Wait.
That's what it says.
What if you live in the front though?
That's
What
the
if you don't have a
problem.
garage? Yeah.
That's the problem. It says garbage
Okay.
toters cannot be visible from the front facade. If you live over there in certain areas where you have a driveway in the front,
No, I totally understand.
then most people have their toters in the front facade. That's like Katie's.
At least for when the
There
garage.
is a line where the front facade begins, so you can't put it around the
It's-
side
but it's
behind
not-
that front facade line.
I agree, but people are not doing that. In fact, there's one house over there that's got 3 toters sitting right off.
But are you saying
front
sitting
driveway.
forever or just garbage day too?
No,
Is
they're
it
there
different?
all the time.
They're there all the time.
Yeah, they're all the time.
So my problem is
It says-
either we enforce the rule or we change
say
the
it.
rule
It does.
so that we allow people to do it, okay?
Okay.
And, I mean, because right now, we don't enforce the rule, and it's on the books. So choose what we're gonna do. That's what I'm asking.
For 18 years.
Well, that could be part of that routine inspections.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, it becomes selective enforcement.
So
If
we
you
add it
choose
to
not
we
enforce
add it to your chart checklist. I think it's right. So the rules, just so I know, by the way, you can't have the garbage can.
Cannot be in the front facade, other than on trash night, it can be, I think it's what time, the night before.
Oh, there's-
7 o'clock
So
the night before.
you're saying some people leave it out all the time?
Yes, they never
Okay.
put it away.
All right. So it seems like an inspection issue to me, right? Okay. All
I
right.
think we have a rule already.
Okay. We need to enforce the inspection. Okay. All right. The last thing on the, so we're good with enforcing the inspection. No questions? We're good.
No, I mean, I think what we were just talking about, the logistics of that is if you consistently see it
Perfect.
being abused over and over again, then you.
Right, it's an inspection, okay. Okay, the last thing is preclude companies from complying with rules and advertise, okay. I think you wanted to.
Well, that's a CJC, because it is with the newspaper, right?
Well,
It is,
That would be a CJC out of the most.
Yes, but you own 75% of CJC budget.
Understood.
he owns all of it because he's on both, right? Right. He's the executive director of both, yeah.
I'm just saying,
and that's right.
for example, a construction company that just okay, especially when they say, oh, I don't live here, so we don't have to comply with the rules, and it's a county road. Well, that's not good enough, okay?
Well, I think we have the ability to be able to decide what's going into the newspaper based on these
Yeah.
things. So it's something we can look at, but
But
you're not talking about if it's a homeowner in violation.
I'm not talking about a homeowner, I'm talking about businesses.
It could be a homeowner's business,
Well,
right? I mean, right? I mean, you're talking about, I could say someone who has a construction company, let's say, and their truck is out there all the time or something like that.
That could be there too.
Right?
That wasn't the intent. The intent was basically people who were not complying with our rules, then we shouldn't have them allowed to.
Well, if we said something like you must comply with all celebration rules to be able to
Including
advertise
driving
the paper. That way, you're not saying you can't advertise the paper. We're just putting a disclaimer.
And that would be something too.
If you've received a violation notice within the last year, you can't.
So we don't violate it.
Well, and that's-
We violate the residents.
And that's up to the board how they want to do this, whether it's 2 violations or 3 violations in a 6-month period, whatever you want to do to decide that. That's what the discussion's about.
Maybe, okay, it's a good discussion. Maybe we do bring it up. I know we are 3/4 of the CJC. but maybe it's something we do bring up this evening. Because at the end of the day, maybe we bring it up with Canoa, right? That there is an issue, which is the group that we're really, you know what I mean?
Non-residents, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good point. I think you're talking about somebody. Is there somebody that's abusing it that you particularly want us to? I'm not saying say it out loud. I'm saying but maybe you talk to Steve and we talk to them and we say we're gonna now follow this process.
They haven't addressed.
They haven't. Okay.
All right, and this is a rule, by the way.
Yeah.
Previously, all such sanitary containers must be stored out of view from the front facade. Okay, and that's Exhibit C, Rule 12.
Yeah, and I think we just have to enforce it. Yeah, we just haven't, it sounds like, so. And then it's not selective enforcement. Okay, I don't know about, maybe we should table, obviously, the last one. But anyway, I think we've gotten through a lot. Anybody have anything to add or anything before we go? Before we adjourn?
I just wanted to ask Jack, what about, what are you gonna do if we bring this, if you start being a little tougher on this, about open houses?
Talk about this. First off, we do provide a service on the weekends that gives open house listings, okay? In our documents, it allows you to have normally one for sale sign on your property, and on the day of an open house, you're allowed to have an additional open house sign. But you're not allowed to put additional signage on property you don't own.
On a truck, on the side of a truck.
Companies that violate that rule advertise this, those
Talking about
advertisements.
real estate companies that do that.
Well, but that's a good point. I mean, we're on our open house stuff. We actually,
Most of the people who, most of your realtors in Celebration don't have a problem. We don't have a problem at all with them. It's a new realtor that comes in for the first, and you go up and down the street and you see 6 open house signs, all pointing with arrows pointing different directions. And by the way, you guys are allowed to pull those signs. Okay. So that's my issue, is let's not garbage up the place. Because at one time in North Village, I used to see about 8 signs posted in the median there, and that was ridiculous.
Well, they're allowed in their own front yard. They're just not allowed anywhere else.
You mean
They're allowed one.
Huh?
You mean CDD property?
Right.
Or CROA property. Sometimes you'll see it.
Yeah, so all I'm trying to say is we do provide a service, and it's a pretty good service. It lists all the open houses. Come by here and you
And it's
can.
nominal fee.
Right, and we have the ability to put that online now also.
Yeah.
To where we can make a widget on self-service and then you click on that and you have it.
Well, but a new prospective buyer probably will not access that.
They can.
We're just saying it's available. And if they want to just go on the internet and do it that way, they can do that too.
Yeah.
We'll have it available.
Okay, anything new to add? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you. We have a lot of paper to recycle. Is there a place to do that?
Yes.
Yes?
There it is.
We got
It is fun. We did it in that.
That's fun.
Great.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. It's all right. I can call for our story. I have no idea. I think Bloomingdale's or something like that. So I
And then followed up with, can you just give us a quick update? You know, to let us know. I was going all over because they actually had a work party. They had tickets, they had a work party. They closed down, it's called St. Felix's in North Hollywood. And they closed it down, so everybody that had a ticket, it was $75 for cover if you didn't have a ticket. And we would get, I did not. Yeah, 47, I'm not gonna although they were the same age as I was. So, yeah, we just had a great time. So we got the Thursday, and then we had a pre-party Thursday night, and then Friday, we did North Hollywood, we ate at the Rainbow Room, so we did Mulholland Drive, that was kind of great with that. Because I'm driving, I don't mind driving. So we did that, and then Saturday morning we just got a breakfast, and then we had right to the venue because the venue started at 2 or the it was like a Woodstock festival. It was really cool. It was a great amphitheater, beautiful venue. Verizon.
You've been trying to most ever. I've gotten stirred, but I'm like, y'all listen to this.
I think she feels like she was wrong by the company. She feels like she was wrong by the It goes back to, remember, that when she ran for the board, she was told Pat told her or let her go, or I don't know what the word is. She still feels she was wrong.
That was just weird. Yeah, I don't know.
About a dog park, though.
About $800,000 things.
So the fence can be lowered drastically. I think it's $40 a square foot difference if we can figure out a way to get some of the. But the sidewalk on this big ticket sidewalks and moving the dirt.
We knew that.
But this is a lot more money than we thought though, because the total is $800,000.
Right, no, I'm just saying that we knew that it was going to cost money to ship. We did not think it was going to be that much because we thought it was a dog park.
This is the whole people, so we're kind of doing here.
You can
I'm
talk.
not going to do exact, so this is kind of close.
Well, that's not good, because you should be watching somebody on the street.
You can do the same thing with around. It's the whole people. Yeah, it's Project Color.
Oh, yeah, because you watch it during the meeting, to see if they watch it. And I wasn't even here last week, and I was, no, I didn't watch it because I was traveling. I mean, I went back and forth West Coast, East Coast twice.
I've got some
On the last 3 weeks.
Hey, Dave,